Welcome to PK Woodworking, and today is like a menagerie of all kinds of different things that I need to get accomplished. I have like about 5, maybe more different things going on at the same time. So I got a bunch of wood that I need to rip down to make face frames with, and then I need to make sure that they're all planed to the exact same thickness. Making a cutting board for a friend of mine. And I've also got some stock I need to get prepared for some doors that I'm planning on working on tomorrow. So lots of work on the table saw today, and also work on the planer. So I'm just gonna let this rip. A couple of things though. I bought a new table saw. It's not gonna be here for a long time. At some point in time, you won't see the Felder anymore. It'll be replaced. But love that thing, and gonna get some good use out of it today. So let's see how this goes. Just got a bunch of random stock here, so I'm gonna do my best to rip this all down. And I think I'm ripping it all down to I think I'm gonna go like 1.5 inches. And then I'll get to the other stuff after that. So let's do 1.5 inches. Or maybe we should do less. Lower the blade a little bit, a little too high. Some of this stuff I'm gonna rip using the actual clamps. No, I'm not gonna do that. I take that back. So I may need to take this stuff off of the saw right now. So yeah, let's do that. So the clamps here, these are the clamps from Mac, and these things, again, I know I've probably said this 1,000 times to everybody, but I love these things. And these are probably gonna get sold with the saw, and I'll get another set for my new saw. So now when you're ripping, you can put the carriage in a locked position. Then you need to take this off and store it, which in my new table saw will actually be a little easier. So before you take these off, this thing off, you want to make sure everything's locked, because otherwise it's a bit of a pain. Then you got to make sure that's off and that's off. Then you pull down, and it should slide. Oh, well, if I do it the right way, it should slide. There we go. Now we're off. Oh, there we go. Really heavy. Really heavy. There we go. There's that. All right. Get a little bit of gloves. I know there's a lot of hate on gloves in general because of how it grabs things, whatever, but rips my hands up pretty solid. if I don't use gloves. Just gonna throw all the parts on that cart. All right, here we go. There's going to be a lot of repetition here, so I figured no good reason for me to not speed this up. So while we're doing this, every single one of the pieces that are to my left or to your right are going to be stacked up. They're all different widths, all different thicknesses. So as I go through, I'm just adjusting the saw as I need to and making sure that it all comes through at the same final dimension with that digital option. So this is the thicker white oak, and honestly I don't know why I'm chopping this up, except so this is rift sawn, so it's weird because the sapwood can be like right there, so that's why this piece didn't excite me so much, because of the sapwood. But we're gonna rip this side because this is the straight piece. This is a heavy piece of white oak. It'll be exciting to see how fast this goes through. Okay, so there was a ton of tension in that wood. So when I ripped it initially, it was perfectly flat. And now, after doing that, there's like 3/16 of tension that came out of this side, which, you know, will be usable if I'm using it for something, but man, that was crazy. Right at the end, massive hook of that stuff. So let's see how this one goes, because the hook is right at the end too. Right about now, the kids come by because they're going to back to college. So I'm talking to them for a second, but I just want to make sure I called out that I'm using a push stick for all this stuff when I'm going through, because I try to keep my fingers away from the blade as best I can. And some of those hooks are pretty solid. You know, these could be good pieces of wood, so I'm going to join them. You never know. After I joined them, easy peasy, ripped them back to nice widths, and came out great. And then I got to, say bye to the kids when they went back to college. And yeah, back to the rest of my day. Okay, so we are about to start or embark on some work here on the joiner planer. So let's get this thing all glided up. I know I've talked about this before because I've got this carbon method on most of my machine's tops. So I really am not sponsored by them, but it's good stuff. And I'm using it, I guess, like I said, across everything. But during the process, you need to use this carbon glide also on top of it. The carbon like method stuff protects the top, but the carbon glide that they sell you with it is the stuff that makes it slick, so that it actually is really kind of a polished surface. And so I'm covering this. It's really simple, and then afterwards, I don't know if I do it on camera or not, but I do the same exact thing later on for the planer, so that it's easy, glides easy. Okay, so we should be good and slick now. Let's see how this goes. So first we're going to joint, and then we're going to plane the 8/4 maple that I have for the cutting boards that I'm cutting up and making later in the day. And these pieces are somewhere between 10 and 12 inches wide, and I go through joining them, and then get to the end, and I put it through the planer, get them all to dimension, so that I can start kind of from the thickest and work my way down to the thinnest material. Okay, day 2. I'm gonna have to switch to this camera because my other camera was overheating. So I'm not sure how much I'm gonna get out of that because I had to keep turning it off and turning it on. We'll see what happens. So anyways, okay. So if you can see from that red card over there, I got through processing all of that lumber that was on the ground. So most of it was white oak. There was a little bit of red oak in it too. But I basically had 8/4, 5/4, 6/4, and 4/4, and it was all scrap stuff. So with the exception of like one piece. So I really kind of just milled it all down over the course of yesterday to get it down to what I would use for face frames. So there's a ton of it, way more than I probably expected there would be. And so I'll probably use what I need to do for all the cabinets that I put up in the shop, and then it will go. I'll take it and I'll like wrap it up and put it into the shed for future if I need it for some kind of face frames out there if I have any left over, which I assume I will. Yesterday I also spent time with making cutting boards. So this is a maple and Padauk cutting board. It's probably going to be, right now it's a little over 2 inches thick. It'll probably be a little less than after I glue it up, sand it, etc. But this is for a really good friend of mine. I've owed it to him for a long time, and so I'm finally getting it done. I made it really bigger than it needed to be, so I'm going to give him a smaller one to go along with it because I have extra. I also made a bunch extra to make myself or my sons or somebody a cutting board, so I'll get that accomplished today too. And the reason why it took a little while to get this accomplished is because I really wanted to see how I could, I guess, resaw this Padauk and then get the Padauk after it was resawn through the sander and see how thin I could sand on the sander and how good it would come out. And happy to say it worked out exactly how I expected. The SCM bandsaw back there did an amazing job. At the resaw was very easy. And then putting it back through this sander, again, easier than I assumed it would be. So what we've got in front of me today is some glue ups for sure. I wish I could use the other table right now, but I've got all that stuff on the other table and I don't really want to take it off. So I'm going to put it on this cart right here, this rain gate cart. I'll jack it up a little bit so it's not going to kill my back while I'm doing the glue up. But anyway, going to also use this new tool for my Pizzy gluing system. This is actually a tool that lets you spread out the glue a lot faster. I need to probably buy, as I found out yesterday, I probably need to buy another one that works for 8/4 better because this was just a little too big for that. But since this is going to be a face grain glue up for this 8/4, this will be pretty close to getting the whole thing. So we'll see how this works today, and if it works the way I assume it does, then I'm going to switch and move to buying the right, or I guess another one that works with 8/4, because they make these in all different widths, and just makes for gluing up so fast. Not like I do a ton of cutting boards, but I do glue up 8/4 stuff, so it would be nice to have the correct width for 8/4, because as you can see, I'd have a bunch of glue hanging off the side, if you can kind of see how that would look there. Yeah, anyway, let's get gluing. All right, I changed my mind. I'm going to do it on this since it's got the surface on it that's going to help me with the glue. So this is the first time that I used that new attachment. So trying to figure out as I go, getting some clamps ready to go. And then I figured out, like I just showed in the previous little display, that there's a way to adjust it. So as you can see, I got a couple of wrenches out there to figure out what's going on. So hopefully if I get it close to the full width, I won't have to do this 25 or however many of these I have. And that'll save so much time from what it normally takes to glue these things up. So let's see. Did not change the width. So we'll see. Well, I kept working with that setting and trying to adjust it to get it dialed in the best I could to get it across there. And it was pretty simple to finally get it to that space. But again, I think there is going to be a requirement to get a couple of different sizes of that tool, for like 4/4, because the adjustment won't go far enough in to do 4/4. So anyway, seems to be working good. But time always seems to get away from you in a shop. And we used to glue up like, 30 doors at a time. So if you don't do it right then in the moment, you're not getting back to that one within the time frame you'd want to get back to it anyway. So just do it when you're gluing it. Probably need to make a glue rack that goes on top of here, but whatever. Okay, let's pull this one down. Those eHoma clamps, which I don't see anymore, so maybe they don't make them anymore, but they've got a really nice flat face on the bottom of them, and if you glue them up like that, they seem to stand straight up and down after you're done gluing, which is a cool feature. Now moving on to that smaller board and getting that smaller board glued up. And I guess I was referring to just glue cleanup in general off of the top of all the boards, and doing it when you can instead of letting it go. So I take a look at the end grain, and I try to match the end grain, or not match the end grain, make them all go in opposite directions, not for strength or anything like that, but when you cut an end grain board and then flip it up, it makes it more interesting when the grain is like purposely going opposite. So then after that, I kind of draw, a carpenter's triangle on here, so I know and don't screw it up when I'm doing the glue up. So I'm learning as I go, and you figure out that with this particular Pizzi machine and that particular nozzle, that it's pretty easy to do it with multiple pieces at one time, which normally I don't. Normally I do like one at a time. That's why you see a lot of people using like rollers for paint, etc., to put on their glue. But I got to the point where I was doing that with this particular system, which was super helpful and made it go much faster than it was going before. This super long, tedious process anytime you do a glue up, but this is definitely a huge time saver for me. Right about now, I actually lose the microphone on the DJI that I'm using now also. So I'm struggle bus right now with audio, but I apologize for the audio levels coming up because that's what happened. So normally I might square them up on the saw first, but I think I'm gonna sander first. Again, having a wide belt sander is like an amazing kind of just blessing. But right now, I'm making sure that you don't take too much off. It's disastrous if you try to take too much off at one point in time. And what I'm doing is just making sure that I'm doing that and testing and seeing how this turns out. And so far, well, it's coming out exactly how you'd expect. I'm just doing one grit and one grit over. Okay, you can kind of see that it's perfectly flat. I don't know how long that takes to do on the sander, but it's pretty quick considering this is like hard maple end grain. So now we're going to go over there and I'm going to cut all these ends off and get it squared up, and then we'll take it over to the unique sander and I'll show you how that takes care of it. Okay, so the challenge with this is that when you're gluing, you end up getting stuff on the edges and the things get a little distorted per se. So I'm gonna take a look at the edges and try to decide like which one is best. And I actually think if I can clean that off right there, that this will be the best. So here's where a sliding table saw comes into its own, especially with those max clamps I was talking about that I have on the saw. So it just makes it really easy to get the actual dimensions that you look for repeatedly. And for me, squaring up those edges was a little challenging on the bigger board, we'll see later, because when you're clamping, sometimes things get distorted and then you can kind of make decisions to change on the fly. Okay, things are getting a bit cramped. So I'm going to use this to basically joint the edges. I don't really have to do much sanding because it's pretty square. Sometimes you use them to square them up. I don't need to do that. So I'm going to start it, and I think we're a little low on the tracking here, so we're going to get that going. A great friend of mine, extreme woodworker, his name's Steve, he's on YouTube, just did a really cool like explanation of this unique machine from Kundig. That's actually the model number, unique UNIQ, and it's really amazing. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. This is just a lot of stuff that happens in the background every weekend, whatever. So I really appreciate the viewership. And if you got any questions or things you want me to show you from the shop, please put them in the comments. Have a great week. Thanks.